Healthier and more creative food options are becoming increasingly more in demand in the meetings industry, but at a very high cost. Coming up, we're talking to a master meeting planner about the bitter aftertastes of food and beverage. All this and more starting right now. Hey, and welcome to the newest episode of Meet Me Here. If you're just joining us for the first time, this is a series devoted to meeting planners, but of course it's put together with the help of what I call master meeting planners. And of course joining me today is one of them, Margo Starr. She is an account director with Eventive Marketing. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So first off, tell me, how did you get into this industry?
I think I've always had a passion for people and passion for putting events together, and I used to do it for free. So I thought,
lucky you.
Yeah, I used to create a lot of different events and a lot of different facets of my life, and then decided to do it more from a corporate perspective. So got into Eventive Marketing, which is a great sort of mid-range company that does a lot of different and unique experiences.
Okay. Well, today we wanted to talk about one of the, I'll say, biggest challenges facing the meeting industry right now, and that is the rising cost of food and beverage in the industry. MPI has said that it's the cost of food and beverage has grown by about 13% in just 5 years, whereas a budget for a meeting on average is only increased by 0.8% per year. How, as a planner, do you navigate that?
I think you really have to pay attention to what the client wants within their budget and just reacting accordingly. I think that a lot of costs are rising in all aspects of this industry. But it just depends on what is most important to the client, and maybe you could take a little bit less from some other component of the program.
So it's not as easy as just reallocating resources then?
No, not necessarily. No, it's not. It's never easy to do that because you don't want to compromise any part of it.
Right.
It's just if the budget just doesn't allow for something in particular, then you just can't do it. But
Yeah.
Or you do it maybe on less. But it depends on what's important. If it's a food-based company that you're targeting and
Sure.
you're representing, then you're going to make sure that the food and the beverage is paramount.
So you've said that there's obviously rising costs in every element of meeting or planning an event. Why is it then that the food and beverage is getting so much attention as like the thing that is posing the problem?
I think it's just something that's in front of people and they see it. Anybody goes anywhere, it's usually food and drink, and that's part of our social what's compromised, or what's part of our social gathering. So
Right.
I think that it is such a visual thing. Sometimes hotel rooms are not as visual, although it's nice. Food and beverage is something that's everybody needs to eat and drink. So.
Well, and the other thing is there's one of the drivers here is people are demanding for healthier food options. And I mean, just like you and I, we go into the supermarket, and to buy healthier food, unfortunately, costs more, as does more creative food, or if it comes from a more foreign place. All of these things add into the driving of or rising costs of food, right? What would you say are some of the trends in terms of food and beverage that you're seeing in the industry?
Well, I think that there's a lot of people are incorporating different experiences within their events, such as whiskey tasting events.
So making the food and beverage more immersive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So people are more aware of just the different options. Compared to years ago, how many different options we have of just non-alcoholic beverages, and as you mentioned, there's so many food intolerances now that you have to really be particular about what you're serving to people and what kind of intolerances there are. I think years ago there was maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5. Now there's I think 33 different food intolerances people may
Wow.
have. So
Yeah.
I think you just have to be careful again.
That's a lot to contend with.
Right. It depends on your audience and who you're talking to.
Right. Well, and speaking of our audience, we're not done with you yet, but we're going to take a quick breakout session where we've asked some others of their perspective of the food and beverage industry.
What is the most odd or unusual request you've ever had in the way of food and beverage?
Ooh, I did actually once have somebody send me a 4-page Excel spreadsheet of all the things that they could and could not eat. So that's always an interesting one. And for us, it's always about, distinguishing the difference between preferences versus the actual requirements. So if it's a requirement, 100% I'll go out of my way to help you out. If you just don't like tomatoes because they feel squishy in your mouth, I'm not as interested.
Yeah, we were doing a conference and we had to find lobsters. So one of my staff went out to a restaurant maybe 2 miles away to get the gentleman lobster.
The oddest breakfast experience I had was in Prince Edward Island, and it was a lovely idea. They gave us room service breakfast because we had an early departure, so room service was served to us. I had a lovely glass of grapefruit juice rimmed with salt, which was lovely. And we all were very, very happy getting on the bus, not realizing that we were actually drinking Greyhounds for breakfast.
When people ask for no gluten, no dairy, no vegetables, no animal products, we don't know what to do with it. So we have to actually go to the venues and say, you need to be creative. And it needs to taste good. And so we do a tasting because if I can eat it, then I'm pretty sure other people can eat it. But yeah, sometimes what do you feed people?
And we're back from the breakout session, and once again I'm joined by Margo Starr. Margo, we just asked some folks in the field here what the most bizarre request they've ever had in the way of food and beverage. What would you respond to that question?
Well, I think a lot of the different events that we do, it's fairly mainstream. I mean, typically we do take into consideration the food intolerances that people may or may not have. If we're traveling to a destination where there's something that's local to the area, we will incorporate that. But it's pretty much standard, just because you're trying to take into consideration many different palates and many different types of people. So you want to keep it so there's no food waste. You want to keep it sort of mainstream.
Right. Okay, so switching gears a little bit, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges facing your industry today?
Well, you touched on one of them, just the rising costs of just everything. Challenges, it can be, competition can be challenges, different companies that are, going within and hiring their own people to do their events and not outsourcing to third party.
Why do you think what advantage do they have with outsourcing?
So I often use this terminology. It's like if your car is broken, you would take it to a mechanic. Somebody who specializes in that. Mm-hmm. When people do it internally, sometimes they're taking somebody from another position within their company. That's not their focus. That's not their day-to-day job. Our objective is to make sure that they focus on what's important to them and leave the day-to-day quagmire that comes with putting events together to somebody who specializes and does it every day.
Okay. What is the best piece of advice you've ever been given as a planner?
I think the best piece of advice I've ever been given is probably to pay attention and to listen. Listen to what your client's looking for. I think a lot of people miss that mark, and you get into your own creative juices and want to do what you think is right, but often it's great to suggest different things to a client, but it's also really important to find out what their objective is, what message they want to get across to their audience, and to be cognizant of that.
And apart from that advice, what advice would you extend to future meeting planners?
I think it's a great industry. I think it's a great industry to get involved in because you meet a lot of different people. You can travel. It's a happy place. It's a happy job because people enjoy what they do. Who doesn't like going to different hotels and different events and trying new foods and meeting different people? It's a lot of hard work, but it's a fun environment to be part of.
Lucky you.
Thank you.
Well, this has been a treat. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for being here. You can subscribe, share, leave us a comment. Let us know what you'd like to see in an upcoming episode. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again soon.